All right, y'all. Here is the moment of truth, and here's I think the most awaited update as far as the Mohammed, Noor, Justine, Ruznick. Ruzik, because I'm not calling her by that last name because she wasn't married. As far as a verdict is concerned, so got rights that most people who are born here, namely us, don't get. But at the end of the day, because she was Australian don't mean that she wasn't white. And she was indeed a white woman. And they got on cold real quick. They even got on cold real quick over all the way in Australia. But this is very interesting because he only got found guilty on two of the three charges that he was hit with. And the charge that he did not get found guilty of was the biggest charge that they were going after him with, which was second-degree murder. So that means that if he serves any jail time, it's going to be a very low amount of time opposed to what they were going to get him with. So let me go ahead and read this article. It says former Minneapolis officer Mohammed Noor was found guilty of third-degree murder in the 2017 shooting death of Justine Ruzik, an unarmed woman who was killed after calling police to report a possible crime. Noor, age 33, was found guilty on two of the three charges against him: third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter in the killing of Justine, a 40-year-old dual citizen of the U.S. and Australia. He was found not guilty of the most serious charge against him, which was second-degree murder. The Hennepin County jury reached their verdict in 2 days, a quick conclusion after a highly publicized 3-week trial to determine whether Noor was justified in his use of deadly force when he fatally shot Justine behind her home a month before her wedding. The former officer now faces life in prison. How about that? So now let me just go back and take back what I just said. That means even on a low level, he could face life in prison. And look at how long it took for them to get to this. It was only a 3-week trial, and they got a verdict in 2 days. Notice that whenever a melanated cop, let's just say one who's closer to black than usual, whenever there's a crime against a white person, or if they call it a crime against a white person, they find them guilty like that. Need I remind you, go back to the 2 cops down in Louisiana, that one that accidentally shot and killed Jeremy Martis. They found them guilty ASAP. They had their mugshots up literally probably a couple days after it happened. Like, I didn't even see them in their uniform. I just saw their mugshots. That's how I came to know who they were. They had their mugshots plastered everywhere. And now one of them is serving 40 years in jail. It's less than that now because it's been a couple years have passed. So he's in the 30s, but still, he still has some ways to go. At trial, prosecutors said Justine called police on July 15, 2017 to report a possible sexual assault after hearing a woman scream in the alleyway behind her home. When police arrived, the yoga teacher and life coach, who had just moved to Minneapolis to live with her soon-to-be husband, approached the squad car on the car side. Noor, sitting in the passenger seat, pulled out his gun and shot Justine in the stomach as she stood outside his partner's window. The former officer's defense attorneys argued that Noor only fired his weapon to protect his terrified partner, Matthew Harity, who said he heard a thump on the squad car and saw a figure raising an arm by the driver's side. During her closing argument on Monday, prosecutor Amy Sweezy insisted there was no conclusive proof Justine ever touched the car. Noor, who refused to speak to investigators or publicly comment on the incident, took the stand to testify in his own defense last week, arguing that it was his partner's terrified expression and the surprising sight of a blonde woman raising her arm outside his partner's window that made him jump into action. He said Harity was having trouble removing his gun from his holster. There was a threat and my intention was to stop the threat, he said last week. I fired once and then the threat took a couple steps back. Harity testified last week that he heard the woman murmur as she approached their vehicle. I had some weird feeling to my left side that I had to look over, Harity testified, adding that he immediately went for his firearm, a silhouette of something. Under cross-examination, Noor admitted that the Australian native did not appear to have anything in her hands and did not look dangerous. If I knew this would happen, I would have never become a cop, he said at the end of his testimony. Thomas Plunkett, Noor's defense attorney, said in his closing argument on Monday that the incident was a tragedy, but not a crime. Mr. Noor acted as he was trained. He acted as a reasonable police officer. Now notice, What one thing did not come up? The whole fear for my life thing. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, I think he did run with that when all of this first happened. But notice they didn't play that up anywhere, to me, from what it seems on the outside looking in, anywhere in this trial. See, to all the black cops out there, whether you are Black American or otherwise, they are not going to allow you to use that fear for your life stuff, especially if the victim ends up being a white person. As you can see, they said she was a dual citizen, which means she could come and go between two nations whenever she pleased, but she wasn't over here that long. And even her, and she was not an American-born citizen. She was an Australian-born citizen that was currently living in the States, but not for a long time. And she got more rights than this guy is, and he's probably been here all his life. How about that? See, to all the black cops out there, your privilege only goes but so far, or as long as they allow you to have it. Now, if this was reversed and say that the white cop was the one who fired the weapon, nothing probably wouldn't have happened to him. I would be pleasantly surprised if something did. But we knew this was going to happen. We knew he was going to, get found guilty. Now all they have to wait for now is the sentencing. But that's crazy. He got found guilty for the 3rd-degree murder and 2nd-degree manslaughter. And they said he could face life in prison. And that, like I said, that's low tier. That's a pretty low tier as far as charges go. And he can face the max. And we know why. She had 2 things on her side. She was white and she was a woman. Now let that have been played out a whole nother way. And this was a black woman. And the white cop shot her. He would have gotten off, and he would have been able to use the not stand your ground thing, the fear for my life thing, and it would have worked in their favor. But like I said, none of this even remotely surprises me. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I'll talk to you in the next one.